09087668888. I take it once again, 09087668888. You can call in and have your say on the discussion going on in the studio.
Okay, like John said, let's look at the issues together. What are the dangers of drug use at workplaces, and how do we tackle the issue to enhance productivity in Nigeria? John, the issue of drug abuse is a major challenge to societies and authorities globally, especially in Nigeria, and the dangers of the use of drugs has strangled the working population, reducing them to be grossly unproductive and exposing them to the high level of criminality at against investing their energy in worthy economic activities. And this is the sad story that we're seeing today in Nigeria.
Yeah, that's true, because the workplace is not exempted from the disruption and the instability and the instability that actually come with drug abuse. The workplace is part of the socio-economic structure of the society in general. And with those who work in this place we're talking about are human beings, and in some instances they are also involved in drug abuse. But and I also want to say this too, that when we talk about drug abuse, there is always this this perception and belief that it's just they never do well, the poor people. But I can tell you that there are people who also abuse drug, who are educated, who are also working in high network places, and this habit of abusing drug could be one of their best kept secrets, and somehow, somewhere, they find themselves in the positions of authority. They find themselves in the organized sector, whether it is in the public sector or in the private sector, and they are working there. However, just like the way drug abuse affects every other thing, as far as somebody is abusing drug, no matter how you want to cover it, no matter how you want to pretend, a time will come when that habit will negatively affect your output as a worker. And generally, you find out that it's going to affect the general output of the aim and the goal of that particular institution. Therefore, it is very, very, very important that institutions and individuals who work in different places must be very, very, very careful and cautious about who they employ, because you might never know who is coming in. And if this person comes in with this habit of being someone who abuses drug, chances are that in the long run, it will bring about some kind of negative tendencies bordering on the output and the overall goal of that particular institution.
Okay, here on this program, we know that excessive alcohol and drug abuse are significant problems in the workplace. And the nature of the substances that are being abused doesn't really matter. But whether it is legal, illegal, whether it is prescription or over the counter, once it impairs the ability to work safely, it becomes a very big problem. And some reports have also said that approximately about 16% of emergency room patients that are injured during work, by the time they were tested, they had some level of, substances in their blood system or some kind of dangerous alcohols in there. So the safety of the worker who is involved in taking drugs, especially during work hours, is a major problem. And once it becomes a problem to one, it also becomes a problem to others. So, John, let's look at some of the drugs that are easily abused in the offices or at workplaces today in Nigeria.
Yes, the way it is in the country when it comes to that particular area of drug abuse, like we have mentioned before, I will continue to say, one of the most abused drugs in this country is cannabis. marijuana, the one we call the Indian herb or weed, different names you call it. Why is it so? It's because it is easily available and it's also cheap. And so some people, they find it before they go to work, they go somewhere, get themselves high, and then when they come to, because there's the belief that when you are high on some of these drugs, that it's going to enhance your performance, or it's going to make you to be bold, maybe to be able to face your boss, or for you, maybe if you are a boss, for you to be able to face your subordinates and maybe command them and control them. In ways that may be a little bit out of place. And in fact, practically, I remember that sometime I had someone in the place that I worked at the time. I had a colleague of mine who was actually into alcohol abuse, and before coming to work, this fellow will go somewhere and get himself drunk. And by the time he comes to work, everybody around him, because of the volume of the alcohol in his system, you could hear him from his breath everywhere. It's oozing of alcohol, and people kept on telling him that you are a nice gentleman, that you are intelligent, you are dedicated, you can do the job. But this particular habit of alcoholism is actually impairing and also distorting and disturbing your performance. Then the guy said, no, I can handle it. And before you know it, someday somehow, it happened that the attitude or the habit of getting drunk actually affected his job, and it was seen by everyone, and that was the end of it. He lost the job because of that, and it's not the only person. There are a lot of people who are like that. And when you talk about even workplace, some people feel that okay, I have to be in an office. Even people who are athletes, they are when they are on the field running, they're in their workplace. The people who are driving, they're in their workplace. Musicians are in their workplace. I remember a situation whereby some musicians, it was said that they were very high on drugs. When they came out there on the stage to perform, they forgot the lyrics of their songs. And you can imagine what that means. And a lot, so you can go on and on. Are you talking about athletes who were shamed, humiliated, and lost their glory because they were involved in drug abuse? On and on and on. So it's something that there are no two ways about it in terms of what alcohol or any kind of drug can do to an individual in the workplace.
And sometimes it starts with even prescription drugs are sometimes frequently abused in the workplaces, especially things like opiates, sedatives and even stimulants, because they provide some kind of pain relief. So you think, okay, if I'm tired, I should go and take these drugs. And before you know it, you are addicted. And sedatives, sometimes treat anxiety, but it can cause drowsiness and impaired judgment. I used to have a tailor in my fashion house or house of fashion, and in the morning, my tailor would come to work, very okay. But after a short time, you hear him say, okay, mommy, I'm coming, let me eat. And then by the time he returns, it's a different story. He's for the first time I was seeing someone sewing and sleeping. A man is on the machine sewing and then he's sleeping. So by the end of the day he couldn't do his work and he had to even live by himself. You give him, because that's we're talking about impaired judgment. You give him a style, he's right there, he's sewing something different. Because he's not using his number. So we have very serious issues. You cannot do your work properly if your sense of judgment is impaired by drugs. If you're feeling drowsy because you have gone to take something, a lot of times you see people abusing codeine, codeine. And some other sedatives, and I don't know why you should take things like that and then you're heading to work. How are you going to work when you're feeling sleepy or drowsy or somehow? So it's a difficult situation. So John, let's look at availability. One of the major drugs that are being abused, like you said, is cannabis. Indian hemp is readily available because Nigerians are farming it. Some people are even farming in their compounds, right? They tell you they're just herbs, like the herb. But then the NDLEA boss came out, like we were saying last week, to say that one strategy that they're using now is to ensure that people who are farming this produce are taken to farm something else. I don't know how we can achieve that, because John, I was saying, okay, people who are making billions from farming Indian hemp, for instance, you want them to now start farming cassava and be. So I don't know how they intend doing that, but I'm sure if they can achieve it, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Just before I jump into that, it's also good to remind our listener that you can actually follow us and call into the studio and have your say on the topic being discussed. And the number to call is 09073530044. I take it again, 09073530044. And there is yet another studio number that you can call, with it 09087668888. 09087668888. Yes, talking about alternative source of income for people who are already used to making billions of naira from cannabis planting, farming, and then distribution and everything. Is going to be an uphill task, but it is possible. It is possible based on how far the government is willing to go in terms of deterrent, in terms of also going after the source. Like we also mentioned last week, you cannot stop the people who are the end users.
Okay, we have a caller.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Mr. Sunday the Prince calling you from.
Okay, thank you very much for calling. Go ahead.
You know, I don't know, with all the efforts government is putting together with the fight against drug abuse and the rest, the thing is increasing on a daily basis. I don't know if because of lack of job that make people to be luring people into the system of taking a drug. Or it's just because it's an habit. I don't understand, because all the effort being put together, you look as if it's getting no result. You know, I traveled last time, I children in my hometown from age of 15 years, they are engaged in drugs. And they don't even see human beings like anything again.
Yeah.
No respect. They look down on you when you talk. They change faces for you. Be wondering, is it an ordinary eye? How can a little boy like this be, talking to an adult without single respect?
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know what next to do, because God is doing all their best. But
Okay, thank you very much for calling. There's so many reasons why people take drugs, all right? And it's unfortunate. Government is doing a lot. Organizations like ours are also contributing our own quota by. That's why this program is here, to enlighten people on the dangers and then the preventive ways that you can, get into. Because once you get into it, it becomes a problem. So, I don't know, tackling it has to be from the root. When we're talking about availability of these drugs, John, apart from the Indian hemp, what about the counter, is it off counter?
Yes. Over the counter, prescription drugs, like tramadol, an opioid. Tramadol is an opioid, just like initially you mentioned something like cough syrup that contains codeine. People also abuse it.
And these are drugs that are banned
over the counter.
Yeah.
Even like heroin, for example, which is a derivative of morphine. You know that even morphine is in some climes could be seen as legal in terms of treating pains,
severe pains,
as an analgesic or an opioid, just like tramadol, or sedatives like codeine that are laced inside the cough syrups. People abuse these things, and because that's why it is well restricted. it is a controlled drug. These opioids, they are controlled drugs because they are actually legal and you can buy them based on prescription. But however, people find a way. Let me just tell you a story to abuse it. There was a time in the neighborhood where I live. Okay, there's a call. Okay, we've lost the call. All right, so people just keep on trying. You get through. Let me call the number again: 09073530044.
Okay, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Chijoke.
Okay, Chijoke.
I call from Dede.
Okay, thank you for calling us. Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
We need to be brief because of time.
Yeah, this talk about drugs.
Yes.
Now, very important issue. They need to put mouth into the matter where.
Thank
But
you,
even
madam.
because this is my area where I did.
Which area is that?
Dede.
For Dede, yeah.
Okay.
That is the way they consume that thing for this area, and that is the alarming. Understand? Even you get where I even know safe. That is, we say they call and say now they are bunk. Understand? They see police. Are they very ashamed to say this? Police they even go that place safe, go collect settlement, getting a settlement, they settle them. They allow them they sell those hard drugs. All those Indian hair, the one they call kulus, where they represent in a kulus.
That's Colorado.
Yes.
Understand? They call that one AZ. They call that one Canadian loud.
Oh, God.
If you even see the guys who did take themselves, you can see an 18-year-old boy or 20-year-old boy. They look like they only reach 40 years. See their lips, see their teeth. You get one who they live from my backyard and you see them now. You look like a madman. You get one. You don't say na business that they do around that. They get one who even smoke them. The brain no contain them. Now they backyard they shout like madman. They shout like good. They come carry and they pour them water for head. If young boy like that, you can.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
If I start to talk now, I know go finish with that your cost for this area.
Yes, thank you very
They
much.
need to pull math inside the math.
Okay, all right. So, John, the dangers associated with the drug use cannot even be overemphasized. Is it the criminality that comes with it? Is it the health hazards that comes with it? Sanity of young persons, practically gone. So it's a very serious thing, and it's not just government, families, society, whatever, we hello. Okay, all right, okay. So, John, because of time, let's also, what should be done if you notice drug use by staff in the office? I think should the person be sacked? I don't know. I used to have one super voice in one radio station that I used to work with. If you hear his voice on the microphone, you stop. You want to park your car and listen. But because of drugs, he couldn't keep his job. All right. So what should we do if you notice that your staff is indulging in drugs or excessive alcohol? I think it's crucial to follow what they describe as proper procedure. First, you talk to the employee, all right, and you see if they will admit that they are into drugs. But if they do not admit, what should we do?
I think it has to be an institutional something. The particular organization must have a drug policy. And the only way you can also find out is when you try to review or observe people's output and their behavior. It can tell you a lot about their stability. So that might even be the very first indicator that something might be wrong with this individual. And at a point like that, then I think that's time. That would be the right time to get the person's attention, and then, if possible, find out what is the problem. Because there's no way you can be on drugs and then you expect to give your best in your place of work. It's not possible. So it's very important that every institution should have a workplace policy when it comes to drug abuse. and sometimes it might not be easy to even discern, because there are people who are very good at covering, but the fact remains that it must come out sometime.
Yes.
Especially like you mentioned, somebody coming to work, then after a while the person is already sleeping, so something is wrong. Or somebody who is known to be active, then after a while this person rating starts to drop. Something is also wrong. So at that point in time, it's not just about, okay, let me just wait and see what's going to happen. No, I think there should be an intervention in order to save the reputation
Of
and
the
also of
company.
that particular institution.
Yes, I'm making drug testing also mandatory in organizations. You try to, you carry out some tests before you employ some persons, and even sometimes even after employment. Once in a while, you could do some tests
Yes,
to ensure.
It's-
And people who
it's
test
great, it's
positive,
nice.
yes, they can be cancelled. They can be get involved in one kind of rehabilitation program or the other to help them. But for those who will not agree to do that, well, they may probably see themselves out of the company with time. So these are the issues. But John, like I always like to say, it's better to prevent. It's better to ensure that people don't start these drugs, because it becomes very difficult for them to stop. So we need to monitor our young persons. We need to encourage them. We also need to, in the school curriculum, begin to introduce subjects that would tell them the dangers of drug use and all that. So these are some of the things. And from Patriot Media Foundation, we always like to say, do the right things. Stop the drugs. All right, be a patriot. Do all of those things that will improve the well-being of your people and that of your nation.
Yes, I think that's the right thing to say, and a lot has been said, but we're not going to stop talking. We'll continue talking until we see at least a moderate reduction in the abuse of drug, and that's where we are